Well, hey, good morning. Welcome to Student Sunday. How's everybody doing? Yes, good. My name is Daniel, and I get the pleasure of serving on our student ministry team as one of our high school pastors, and I also help oversee our student ministries here at OKC, and I'm so glad to be here. We are so glad to get to share this weekend with you. Typically we don't get to be up here and see all of your amazing faces, and so I know I'm excited. Our students were excited to be up here and be a part of this morning with you. So thanks for being here with us. This has been an incredible summer in student ministries. If you missed it earlier, we had a highlight that was planned before the service started. So some of you got just a sneak peek, but you can't see it all. And it's been just incredible. We started off the summer with Crossings Students Camp, where we took nearly 200 students from here at OKC and at our Edmond campus, and about 75 volunteers down to Stewart, Oklahoma, this tiny little town, but had an awesome camp called Camp Wow. And it was just an incredible week. I mean, tubing, sea-doos, high ropes course, zip lines, all the fun that you could imagine, as well as just some awesome God moments. And he just showed up in some incredible ways through our worship experiences. I mean, you guys, this was pretty much our band for like 3 nights straight. People didn't have voices, okay? I mean, it was just incredible. And then we heard from this guy named Mike Fackler. Some of you may know Mike. Mike was a Crossing student pastor here for a season, and it was just great. We talked about fear not, and just what students have come out of the last couple of years. That message just really resonated with them. We had a dozen or more decide to follow Jesus for the first time, some of which you just saw get baptized. I know, it was awesome. Several more decide to follow him again, just rededicate their lives to him, and others that decide they wanted to go into ministry because of the week that we had there at camp. I mean, just incredible, great stuff. And that message of fear not just really seemed to hit home. And so whenever we started talking about today, about Student Sunday, and about what we might want to say to the rest of our church, we wondered if that might be something that you could hear too. Because here's what I know. Now that I am 33 years old, and I will officially call myself an adult at this point. I don't think 18-year-olds are really adults, but that's neither here nor there. Is that fear doesn't really go away when we become adults, does it? I mean, it's not like it's just like here today, gone tomorrow. As soon as you're an adult, everything's great, hunky-dory, no more fear. You know exactly what it looks like to like follow after Jesus and follow after God, and you never miss a step because you're afraid. Like, that's not true, is it? Fear keeps coming. It's something that we keep having to deal with even as adults. And here's how I know that. Whenever I growing up, my family and I, we were lake people. My parents are here today. They can tell you this is a true story. Someone asked earlier, did that really happen? It really happened. We were lake people. And by the time I was 12 or 13 years old, I'd probably been to the lake hundreds of times, right? I'd skied, I'd tubed, I'd kneeboarded, all the fun stuff. But I hadn't ridden a wave runner. And it just so happened that summer, some of our family friends that were at the lake with us from time to time had gotten wave runners and were there while we were there. And so little 12-year-old, 13-year-old me, I was buzzing with excitement, right? Like I'm just so excited. Life jacket on, jumped on the back of this wave runner with my cousin, wrapped my arms around him. He's an adult, so I was in good hands. And off we went, right? Tearing across the water, jumping over the waves, doing donuts, falling off, just having a blast. And about the time we got finished, we headed back toward the shore where we had started. And my cousin throws one more donut, throws me off the back. And this time something a little different happens. This time whenever I come up, my head hits the bottom of the wave runner. Ooh. And I can hear the engine still running. And so like fear just comes right in. And so I swim and I come up, and a second time I hit the bottom of the wave runner. And my mind is just racing. It's going to all of the worst possible places in this moment. I feel like I'm running out of air. And so I take one more big swim, and I come up to the surface. And I must have looked like I had just seen a ghost or something, because that's what my cousin says to me. He's like, dude, did you just see a ghost? And I was terrified. traumatic experience. And to this day, I'm 33 years old, I have never gotten on a wave runner again. Because fear it doesn't just go away whenever we become adults, does it? Here's the deal, you came in here this morning and I know that there's all sorts of different fears in this room, but one thing that is the same about all of those is what it does to us. Fear, it can lock us up. It can take hold of our lives and it can keep us from doing things that we want to do, from doing things we should do, from doing things that we feel called to do. Fear has the ability to take hold of our lives and it becomes our master. And it can keep us from some really amazing things. And here's the thing, I get it. We live in a crazy, chaotic, divisive world, crazy times. If the last 2 years haven't told us anything, if it hasn't taught us any lesson, it's taught us that we don't really know what's around the corner, do we? We don't really know what's coming or what's about to happen. We don't have control over any of that. And that can leave us in a state of fear. It can leave us feeling like we're in a state of chaos. We don't have control. If you would, get your Bibles, turn to Mark chapter 4. It'll be on the screens if you don't have a Bible. And while you're turning, I want to ask you this question. What are you afraid of? What fear did you bring in here with you this morning? We asked some of our students that whenever they came to camp, and they said things like, I'm afraid of being known, being vulnerable, being really known. I'm afraid of being found out. I'm afraid of failing. I'm scared that I'm never gonna live up to who my parents want me to be. I'm afraid of being left alone. I'm scared of what I might do if I'm left to myself. And you know what? I'm scared I'm never going to be able to get out of this sin. And here's what I suspect. If I were to take a poll of our audience this morning and just ask you to raise your hands as I listed those off, some of you are probably there too. And so in Mark chapter 4, Jesus does something with these fears. And I want us just to take a look briefly. And starting in verse 35, it says, as evening came, Jesus said to his disciples, let's cross to the other side of the lake. And so they took Jesus in the boat and started out, leaving the crowds behind, although other boats followed. But soon a fierce storm came up. High waves were breaking into the boat and it began to fill with water. Here's what you need to know. These guys that are taking Jesus on this boat ride, they're not amateurs, okay? They're not novice sailors. This isn't their first time setting foot in a boat, okay? No, these guys had made their living as fishermen, right? They had been on the seas many times before. They'd seen storms come and go, but something about this one just felt different. And it did something different in their lives. And so picking up in verse 38, it says, Jesus was sleeping at the back of the boat with his head on a cushion, just enjoying life, not a care in the world. His disciples woke him up shouting, "Teacher, don't you care that we're going to drown?" Verse 39 says, when Jesus woke up, he rebuked the wind and said to the waves, "Silence, be still." And suddenly the wind stopped and there was a great calm. And then he asked them, "Why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith?" Verse 41, the disciples were absolutely terrified. And at this point, it's not because of the storm, it's because of Jesus. Who is this man? Even the wind and the waves obey him. There's two things that jump out at me from this passage. The first one is the power. The power that Jesus speaks with, the power that causes the wind and the waves to stop, to be still, to be at peace. The power to be able to speak and things change in an instant. It reminds me of the creation story. See, Genesis 1:2 says, now the earth was formless and empty. Those words for formless and empty, their most literal translations are chaos and waste. At the beginning of the world, it was chaos and waste. And into that moment, God speaks. And he gives order and beauty. And he creates this masterpiece of a world that we get to live in now. The beauty is all around us. And that's the power. That's the same power that Jesus uses in this moment. the power over creation, the power over everything. And it's that power that we get to cling to. You see, in this chaos, we need a constant. And in this way, in this moment, Jesus shows us that he is worthy of being our constant. He is worthy of us clinging to, that he is powerful enough to deal with this life and its chaos and its crazy. This is why, this power, that's why we wear these buffs on our shirts as a student ministry. You guys have probably seen these around. There's a lot of them wearing this morning. Have you guys ever seen a picture of a buffalo standing in a field with ice and snow just covering it, or standing looking straight into the storm? Not a care in the world. Standing firm. You see, it's that sort of power rooted in Jesus that we desire for our students and for you. The second thing that jumps out to me in this passage is what Jesus does with their fear. Did you catch it? He says, why do you still have no faith? You see, he makes their fear a faith issue. And some of you in here, you get that. Like your fear has become a faith issue for you. It's kept you from following after Jesus at different times in your life. It's kept you from what God has for you. It's become an issue of faith in your life. And what he says to them is, do you still have no faith? Some of you have been following Jesus for a long time, and you've seen him do some incredible things in your life and in the lives of those around you, but there's times that fear still gets in your way. He says it to these disciples. If you look back at the book of Mark, the first few chapters, before we get to this point, it's littered with Jesus doing amazing things. I mean, the first chapter alone says, these are just the headers. Jesus casts out an evil spirit. Jesus heals many people. Jesus heals a man with leprosy. Jesus heals a paralyzed man. That barely gets you out of the first chapter. These are the things that these men had watched Jesus do. And he looks at them and says, goodness, guys, do you still have no faith? What do I have to do? And I often wonder if he looks at me and he feels that same way. Like, does Jesus ever look at me and just think, man, what do I have to do? What do I have to do to get you to step out of that fear and into trust? What do I have to do to get you to follow me where I'm calling you to go? This morning, I want you to hear from a couple of our students and one of our small group leaders. You're gonna watch this video in just a second, but here's my prayer for you. My prayer is that you would allow them to be an example to you. They're 12, 18 years old, but my prayer is that you would listen and that you would allow their lives to be an example to you this morning on how to step out of fear into faith. Watch this.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Harbaugh, and I am so excited to introduce to you some of our incredible people that are surrounded in our community that serve this church so well. Well, guys, I just want to take today and just highlight your stories, and I want to talk about, why you serve.
Hi, my name is Isaiah Milligan, and I just graduated high school, and I'm going to be a freshman in college. I've been serving for 7 years. I've served in the sanctuary, the venue, the chapel, all of the children's rooms, Edmond, and students. I am on the production team in all of those places, whether it's lights, sound, or video.
So you've served 7 years, but I've heard someone beat you out.
About 1 year, but I started a lot later. My name is Wes Gudikins, and I serve in the high school ministry as a small group leader, and I've been serving there for 8 years.
So Lana, you are our youngest server here today that we're gonna talk to, and I'd love to hear your story and just why you serve at Crossings.
My name is Lana Bowen. I'm going to 9th grade and I'm 14. I serve in the 4s and 5s worship team and also the classrooms. I've been serving for a year now. I started when I was 13. I served for the 4s and 5s worship team, and I teach them how to do the motions and the words of the song, and Me just being there just makes me happy, and seeing them smile and dance along with the movements, it makes them put a smile on my face.
And it's so fun that they get to see someone just a few years older than them loving Jesus, right? You're like being an example to them as they are learning what this whole thing is all about. We can't do church without you guys. Like, there's just no way that this church would function. And there's something about a community whenever you serve together and you serve with people, and it grows and it develops and it brings joy to your heart, and more joy in your heart, you overflow into other people.
I serve because I feel led to serve. I think God calls us all to serve in one way or another, and I feel like God has given me blessings and gifts that I should use to glorify Him, and I feel like the best way to glorify Him is by serving others and finding relationship with other people. Certainly through serving, I've seen God show up in my life, in my relationships, and how I've served in the high school ministry for 8 years. And over that period of time, I've been able to see the fruits of serving and watching God show up for students. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens by planting seeds, multiple times each week sometimes, and sometimes it takes a while. And I can think of one student in particular who was always just looking for that moment. We prayed for years for him to find that moment, and how awesome it was for him to finally find that moment. And it's a great thing to be a part of whenever people come to Christ. Or get closer to Christ. And it's awesome to see when you serve, you get an opportunity to see people grow, especially when you serve for a longer period of time. You see how they grow and how God works in their lives, and it's just a blessing to be a part of that. I don't know if I really knew that I was gonna probably stay in it for as long as I have, but the more I've been there and the longer I've been there, I've realized how much I really cherish it. Not just walking beside my high school guys, but also just the community that I've been able to be a part of within that ministry, and the other small group leaders. And that's a large part of why I keep doing it.
Being involved in production, I tend to interact a lot with some of our worship teams in all of the rooms, and that's kind of a community that builds is a production and worship team. And students, we call it the Worship Collective. It's a community of volunteers who get there early on Sunday mornings or Wednesday nights, and we just kind of hang out, and then even on the weekends and stuff, we go do stuff outside of church. That community has really helped me grow.
I serve because I just feel like that God has brought me to these kids, and I've seen God show up while I'm dancing and just showing them how to do the moves or stuff.
Well, at the end of the day, we're serving at Crossings, but in reality, it's kingdom work at whole. What you're doing here is affecting people as they walk with the Lord, and they may leave Crossings, they may move states, whatever, but you are affecting people who are going to affect other people. When we say that, when we say kingdom work, what comes to mind?
Like Isaiah, right? He's got this gift to be able to do this, a talent, right? And that's what I think about when I think about kingdom work is God gives us talents or gifts or opportunities, and kingdom work is taking advantage of those opportunities to glorify Him, and taking advantage of the skills we have and the gifts we have that God's blessed us with, and turning around and trying to figure out ways to further His kingdom. God blessed me with time, and so that's one of those things. I'm fortunate to have a really flexible job and be able to have all this time to be able to potentially give back. And so rather than kind of using it for myself, my goal and what I'm always trying to think about is how can I use this time to glorify Him? How can I use this time? Where can I invest it? For me, it's always, it's been high school student ministry. But what's cool is it opened up other opportunities for me to serve in other areas. I mean, I got to volunteer at the community center as well with high school students there, which is fun. It's not like I have to do anything, like I said, special. A lot of it's just showing up.
Kingdom work to me is just trying to help out in any way possible. Whether it's leading a small group or being in production, it's all kingdom work. Doing any sort of little thing that helps out, whether it's helping in the coffee shop on a Sunday morning or being on stage teaching a message, they're all kingdom work.
This little 5-year-old, his name's Eli, he's in my class. He said that I was just his best friend, and it just melted my heart. I was thinking, this is why I serve. This is why I think this is important, because I feel like they look up to the people that are serving with them. And so that serving is just another way to interact with other kids. And kingdom work is just, to me, is just like helping the little kids get to know God more and how he's doing things for his kingdom.
So good. So good. Yeah. And I think, we go through these things and we serve and we give our time and we know kids' names and we make these services like perfect just so that people can experience Jesus. And on top of that, right, like we learn about ourselves. I mean, like we're giving back, but at the end of the day, we're learning a lot. So what has God taught you about yourself through giving back and serving his kingdom?
Looking back on it and, over the years, I've realized that I needed that sense of community. I needed that community. I needed something to push me and grow spiritually. And certainly Wednesday nights, I get as much out of 610 as the students probably. Like, I love hearing what Daniel has to say, Haley, you, Vance, I love that. Like, I get a lot out of that myself, just to kind of fill me up. Certainly for me, though, what I've learned more than anything is just the need for accountability and a sense of community, and that's one of the things with serving. You figure out you're sitting there trying to walk through life with these guys and you're trying to tell them what to do, and every time it helps me to look back and look at my life and be like, am I doing that? It's forced me to grow because of that. So I don't think I would be pushed like I am, if I hadn't taken the opportunity to serve.
Yeah. What about you, Lana?
I felt like it helped me to become a better person, to just interact with more people. Especially the kids, they need a lot of attention and they need like someone to be there to tell them to like be that person that you want to be and just be a role model to them, and just pushes me to be like a better person, a better leader to them.
Serving is such a great thing, and it makes you feel good on the inside. My advice for volunteering is just get plugged in and go for it. Serving is such a great feeling. Even a year is so helpful everywhere, whether it's production, small group, worship, anywhere. Plugging in and connecting is such a great way for the church to grow, your community to grow, and for you to grow.
So when I started, I was a little nervous working with them. When we start working with them more, you don't get nervous anymore, and it just becomes really, really fun. And it's a great way to put yourself out there.
My advice to you, church, is if you want to find a deeper relationship with Christ, serve. Find a place to serve. There's plenty of places to serve. And for those of you that are serving, I would ask you and challenge you to find people and ask them to come serve with you. That's exactly how I got into this, was somebody asked me one day, hey, do you want to serve? And that's the way we can grow and deepen our faith, is by serving others.
Well, thank you guys for sharing your stories today. I can't believe how incredible our God is to take each individual person at Crossings and just take their giftings and their skills and their personalities and use them so that other people can know him. And I'm just so grateful that you guys were willing to share today. And church, I love that we get the chance to be a part of something bigger, something more extreme that the Lord has in store for us. And we know that you get to be a part of that as well. Sometimes it just takes that one step, that one moment to jump in. And like Wes was saying, it may be I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing here, or it may be an Isaiah where he grew into it and he just became more and more in tune with what God was calling him to. Or it could be Lana just starting out and just excited to see happy faces and just plug into these students. But whatever it may be, I know the Lord is going to call you, and I hope that you say yes.
Yeah, here's the deal, like Lindsay said, church doesn't happen without those students. Isaiah is actually in this room today working back at the production booth. Like church doesn't happen without people stepping out of their comfort zones and into those opportunities. And here's, just put it out there, if students can do it, you can do it, right? If students can step out of their comfort zones, out of their fear, into what God has called them to, you can do it too. It reminds me of the disciples in our story, right? This wasn't the last time that the disciples faced fear. As a matter of fact, whenever Jesus dies, whenever he comes back to meet them, they're all huddled together in a room together, scared for their lives. And it's those scared men that go from there and change the world with the message of Jesus. They step out of their fear into what God was calling them to. And that's what we hope you'll do today as well. At camp, we kind of came around this verse in Psalm 56:3. It says, when I'm afraid, I will put my trust in the Lord. And it's simple, but it's profound. When I am afraid, I will put my trust in the Lord. Who deserves it, who is worthy of it, who can actually handle it. It makes me think of this. It makes me think of sitting in a chair. Have you guys ever sat in a chair that didn't deserve your trust, right? And you end up on the ground or in the floor. That's what happens whenever we put our trust in places other than Jesus. Jesus is worthy of our trust. We came around this statement of, I will trust in the Lord. At camp, we had this sign, brilliant white neon sign. And on the last night of camp, we had on our stage, and hundreds of students came across that stage and stepped on that sign and proclaimed as loudly as you can imagine. I mean, this sight is seared in my memory forever. I will trust in the Lord. They stepped out of their faith, out of their comfort zones into trusting the Lord. And that's not a small step. It's not a passive thing to trust in the Lord. It's an active thing. This morning, that sign is out in the atrium between a couple of tables. One where you can sign up to serve in our children's ministry, where you can invest in some children, whether that be in the production booth in our children's ministry or whether that be in a classroom, helping them pay attention and get the message. There's a table for our student ministry where you can sign up to come in on Sunday morning and help us teach a lesson or be a first impression and just a greeting face or be a small group leader and walk alongside a group of students for a season. But my prayer is that this morning, as you leave, that sight of I will trust in the Lord, that sign lighting up our atrium will be something that you will never forget as people go over and sign up to serve in our church and just take that step of faith in following Jesus. I'm gonna pray and then we'll be dismissed. Dear Lord, I'm so thankful for Jesus, for the fact that he is worthy of our trust, of our faith. That he's a place we can grasp onto in the middle of our chaos. He's a constant. God, I thank you for the examples of Isaiah and Lana and Wes as they follow after you. And God, I pray that I would follow after you in that same way, that these people in this auditorium would follow after you. They would take a step out of their fear or anxiety or worry, whatever it is, God, into whatever it is that you are calling them to. I praise in Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Thanks for being here with us this morning. You guys have a great Sunday. We'll see you back next week.